Today we're going to talk about first-time home buyers tips in order to get you to the finishing line successfully. My name is Katrin Fitzenreiter. I'm a local realtor here in Sarasota, Florida. This channel is all about Florida information, real estate destinations. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and we're going to get right into this video. Number one is get a pre-approval letter, and there's really two main reasons for that. First off, you want to understand what budget you can be shopping at, depending on what you're approved for. But also, once you're ready to look at homes with an agent, the agent is more likely than not going to be asking to see the pre-approval letter to make sure that you're ready and able to start shopping. I invited Shannon Cole to this channel. She is a preferred lender and we're excited to have her. She's going to be answering a lot of your questions, and feel free to contact her after this discussion. Shannon, thank you so much for being here. Maybe introduce yourself first before I start asking questions.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Katrina. Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon Cole. I'm a loan officer with Guaranteed Rate Affinity here in the Sarasota area, and I have been helping homeowners in this area for over 25 years. I'd love to answer your questions, hopefully help you, and ask away.
What are the different mortgage types? So I know there's four, but can you talk to us about the differences just in general?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just going to start and say you do not need to have this huge down payment to buy a home. You have conventional loans, which are very popular, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20% down for conventional loans. And for any type of residential property, that would be your primary vacation home or an investment purchase. Then we have FHA, which is a government loan, not just for first-time home buyers, but it is for primary home purchases only. And you only have to put 3.5% down. And FHA tends to be a little more forgiving sometimes on the credit score requirements and some of the income requirements. So that's always a great option. And then there's VA, which of course is for our current active duty and veteran families, which you can finance up to 100% of the purchase price, no mortgage insurance, and really the easiest loans I think that are on the market right now. So that's a great option. And then we don't see very often in the Sarasota market because we've grown so much, but then there's also USDA still available in some areas that are considered more rural. And that also allows you to qualify for 100% financing. Primary home only. You don't have to be necessarily a first-time home buyer, but there are income limits and restrictions as far as owning other real estate, but that could be an option as well.
Now, what is predominantly the mortgage loan type that you work with?
Yeah, in this area, I'd say 80% is going to be your conventional loans, and the other 20% will be between the FHA and the VA loans. As I said, we really don't have an opportunity for USDA just because there aren't as many eligible areas to offer those loans.
Okay, so a lot of buyers are very intimidated by the process. Can you help them understand kind of what the first 2 or 3 steps are and how they can prepare for it?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot of questions and answers, but please know that whoever you are talking to, we'll start, and we can start the conversation, start asking the questions that we need to go down that path with you. But, you know, my initial conversation with anybody is I want to know what their intentions are. What is the loan for? Primary home, vacation home, investment property. And then there's spin-off questions from there. But then I'm primarily going to want to know where your income has been coming from for the last 2 years and kind of get an idea if it's going to be continuing that way. What money is being used for the down payment and closing costs. Really big issue. You've got to be really upfront exactly where the funds are coming from. Is it a gift from mom and dad? Are you liquidating some stocks and bonds? Are you taking a 401k loan? We really need to know so we can tell you and guide you on the proper documentation. And then however you want to apply, most of my customers do apply online. That allows me to also, on our second follow-up call, I've reviewed their credit report. So we know there's no errors that need to be corrected maybe on your behalf or any red flags that we need to address. So we can make sure you get your loan approved.
Let's just assume that I'm one of those home buyers and I'm calling you now, but I want to be prepped for this initial conversation. What paperwork can I, gather together so that I'm a little bit more efficient going into this?
I love it. If you are currently employed, if you could have a recent pay stub nearby so I can ask some questions about how you're paid in your employment, or a W-2 or a tax return will also work. Other than that, most of the questions I'm going to ask: how long you've lived where? Do you own or rent? I'm going to ask, if you rent, what is your monthly rent? If you own, is there a mortgage? What is your mortgage payment? I'm going to look at your credit report, but I'll also ask questions, such as, do you have an installment agreement with the IRS? Maybe you owed a lot of money on your taxes last year and couldn't pay it all at once, so you're in an agreement. I'm going to want to ask about the terms of those payments. If you're obligated to pay anybody child support, alimony, or separate maintenance, those are things that are liabilities that are included when we're calculating your income that wouldn't necessarily show up on a credit report. That's it. I'm going back 2 years on where you've lived and worked, and debts, and where the money's coming from to purchase your home.
You want to make sure that they can afford buying a home, right?
Correct.
Not just from the standpoint of ensuring that the loan gets paid off, but you also want to make sure that potential buyers are not over their heads. So that makes sense to be very thorough and kind of the background check, so to speak. How does a potential buyer even know if they're going to be qualified to get a loan?
It's taking that initial step to either reach out and call myself or another licensed loan professional, and then take that step to share that information, allow them to pull a mortgage credit report to make sure you fit within the guidelines of the program that you're qualified for. It's really that simple. Just picking up the phone, call, email, or text somebody and get the process started. Credit score is very important, along with the content of the credit report. And depending on the program that you are applying for example, government loan programs, FHA and VA, tend to be a little more forgiving on those that have lower credit scores, where conventional loans, you can still have a lower credit score, maybe in the lower to mid 600s, and still qualify and get approved for the loan, but the interest rate is much higher. So it's just worth having your credit report pulled with a mortgage professional. It's a mortgage credit report. It's going to be different scores than when you're doing your Credit Karma or Credit Wise and checking your own. So just don't bank on that. Continue to review your credit on those apps to make sure there's nothing erroneous or negative showing up. But as far as getting your score and history, a mortgage professional should do that with you.
Now, there's some confusion in terms of pre-approvals and pre-qualification. Can you tell us about the differences?
Sure. A pre-qualification basically does not include having your credit report run. It is sharing your income and credit and what you think your credit is in your liabilities and assets with a mortgage professional. And they may look at your pay stub and review your bank statements, but it's not a full initial application for a pre-approval. So hence the pre-approval goes that one extra step, and there is a mortgage credit report pulled and looked at along with the income and asset documentation to make sure there's no surprises, that your application fits the parameter of the loan that you are going to need.
Right. And then there's an additional step to this, which is actually getting pre-underwritten. What are the benefits of doing that?
Correct. Oh my gosh, there's so many benefits. At Guaranteed Rate Affinity, we call that our power bid approval. So that is taking it one step after I meet with a customer and I've reviewed their online application and the initial income documents, and I gather all documents that I know will be needed for an approval, and we send everything to one of our underwriters who reviews everything and issues a commitment to lend pre-approval, this power bid approval. And it says that you are approved subject to finding a home. So all we need now is your contract, an appraisal if one's needed, title work, and insurance, and your closing, because everything else we've already addressed and approved.
So it speeds up the entire process and also makes a stronger offer.
It does. It absolutely does. We can close quicker and it makes a stronger offer. And we have that available for any of the loan programs we're talking about, the conventional or FHA or VA. We're happy to do that for anybody before they start shopping.
Right. Now, closing costs here in Florida can be about 3 to 4% of the purchase price, estimated wise. How do you account for that in the pre-approval process? And then how is it baked into the mortgage payment?
Well, the closing costs will need to be paid at closing by either the buyer or the seller within the allowable limits. So we do factor in the estimated closing costs because it factors into, wow, how much are you going to need to close, your down payment and all your closing costs. So that's factored in for the pre-approval portion. What is included in most mortgage payments are the principal and interest on the loan, estimated, your homeowner's insurance is escrowed, your property taxes are escrowed. what is included for qualifying you in your payment is if you're in an area that has a homeowner association, we'll factor that monthly payment to qualify and approve you, but you will always pay your homeowner association directly to the management company or the association. It will never be included in your mortgage payment.
Okay, so those are additional charges that potential buyers are going to have to think about when purchasing a home.
Correct. And so what should happen with any pre-approval or even a pre-qualification, but hopefully a pre-approval, because it's much stronger, guys, is you'll have your pre-approval letter issued by your lender, by Guaranteed Rate Affinity, and then there'll be a separate document, which we call it a loan summary. Some lenders call it cash to closes or their initial loan estimate, although that's typically not official until you select a property. But it's a detailed line by line breakdown of those costs that are typical that you will see at closing. So it'll give you, I'll call it the meat and potatoes. What is the monthly payment going to look like with taxes and insurance, everything included? And how much money total are you going to need that includes the down payment and those closing costs?
One last question, and that is, are there any special incentives right now for first-time home buyers in Florida?
Yeah, in Florida, yes. My goodness, we have the Hometown Hero program that the state of Florida put out. It is for first-time home buyers defined as not owning any real estate in the last 3 years. That it includes being entitled to any other property. The exception to that first-time home buyer rule is for our veterans. You don't have to be a first-time home buyer, but it's for a primary home purchase. And if you qualify, I think there's 100 different professions. They're mostly municipal and healthcare worker professions. If you are employed full-time in one of those professions and you qualify otherwise, you can get up to a 5% of your loan amount in down payment assistance with a maximum of $25,000 to go towards down payment and closing costs. And it's set up as a silent second mortgage that you would repay if you ever sold your home or it wasn't your primary home. But it's great. $25,000 help with closing costs and down payment to get you into your home.
I'll take it.
Yeah, right? It's awesome.
Yeah, excellent. Shannon, thank you so much for being here today and really helping address some of the major questions that buyers have. Of course, anybody out there who has any additional questions, call Shannon. She'll be.
I'd love to help. Call me, text me, email me.
I'm happy to help you. Information is going to be in the description section for Shannon, contact information, and her website. Shannon, thank you again. I hope to see you soon on my channel once again.
I hope to be back, and thank you for having me. Bye, everybody.
Many of you that I've talked to know you want to live in Florida, but it's important to obviously figure out where you want to live. And so a good way to really hone into one or two particular places is a process of elimination. My suggestion is start off with tripadvisor.com. Let's just say you're picking between Dunedin, Sarasota, and Clearwater. See what there is to do around the area, because more likely than not, you're going to want to venture out of your house and participate in the town or in the city that you live in. And you want to make sure that the things that you're interested in are around you in that particular neighborhood. I'm looking at things to do in Sarasota, and what comes up is 603 places, and then it's sorted by traveler favorites. You see here where it says 2022, there's an icon, a green icon. This is a Traveler's Choice Awards. This is already ranked. You got number 1, the Ringling. Botanical Gardens came in at number 2. Moat, St. Armand Circle is 4. I think the rankings are pretty close to what I would consider a major points of interest here. Use this resource, get a better feel for what there is to do in the area, and this is going to help you decide if it's even worth visiting in order to explore further. If you're somebody with kids and if the school system is important to you, there are different online places that you can tap into to get a general sense of how the public school system is in that particular area. So here, for example, all you have to do is type in the town and it'll give you an idea of what the school ratings are. Now, I would take this information directionally. There's nothing better than actually talking to people in the school system. You also want to get some sense of how safe a particular town is. There are different websites that you can utilize online. Let's just use this one. We're going to plug in Naples. And here you get to see the different neighborhoods and where it's, maybe safer to live versus not so safe based on the color coding here. But just as much as with schools, you want to verify the information with the local police office, gauge their feedback. Healthcare is going to be important to some of you. There's plenty of different platforms you can tap into to get ratings. I would start off with understanding what the hospital in a particular town is rated at. And you can tap into US News, for example, to get hospital ratings there. So these are all really good tools for you to utilize in order to really kind of start focusing on that one or two places that will make sense for you to explore further. And so the next step is, can you afford where you feel like you're going to want to live? What you're going to want to do is tap into platforms such as Realtor.com to get a very good idea of what the going prices are. Let's just assume you're looking for a home that is about $500,000, maybe below that budget. So what I would put in here is a price range of $400,000 to $500,000. And the more information you put in here, the likelier it is you'll get to search results that are really close to homes that you're actually looking for. But at $500,000, you're looking for a pool home and you'd like it to be in a gated community. So let's see if anything pops up. 0 results in the search criteria here, which probably means that having a pool house at $500,000 in a gated community is stretching it. So let's take that one out. Let's see how many come up. 42. If you come to the conclusion that, yeah, my budget isn't going to be able to get me a home here, then you know that that place or places need to come off the list, or you're going to have to go to the next best option. Now you found a place that you know you can afford and you want to explore it further. At this point, you're ready to contact an agent. Get a buyer's agent to help you in this whole process. That person is going to help you with understanding differences with the different neighborhoods. They're going to help educate you on the market situation. They're going to help put the best offer in place. The seller's agent isn't going to be able to advise you to that depth because the seller's agent is going to have to become a very neutral party in the transaction. So find an agent, talk to the agent. Typically the first point of contact is a phone conversation. Maybe it's a Zoom call. The next step would be to meet in person. I typically like to ask my buyers to meet me in the office for a meet and greet. If you're in a place for the very first time, it is so important to get a feel for the neighborhood. If you wanted to explore a neighborhood, one of your first options is to go to Google Earth and see where that neighborhood is located. See what's kind of around that neighborhood before you head over there because, well, these days time is money, and guess what? Gas prices aren't cheap either. Let's just assume you're interested in Gulfgate. Gulfgate is a very popular neighborhood in Sarasota, but you kind of wanted to understand where it sits in Sarasota, what's in Gulfgate, and what's kind of around it. Well, so I'm already in Google Earth, and I'm going to type in here Gulfgate, Sarasota, and then you click enter, and guess what? It brings us there. Gulfgate Estates is marked in this very faint red line. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I definitely can see it. Now, you know just by looking at this that Gulfgate is very close to Siesta Key. It's about 7 minutes away. Okay, so now you're interested in understanding what's kind of in Gulfgate, right? So what is this neighborhood like? So you can zoom in and get a really nice top-down view of what it looks like. You can hone in even further. You get to see all these landmarks here, so you see what's kind of in the area. We're going to take this a step forward. So let's just assume you wanted to see a house in Gulfgate, but you're not sure because you don't know the neighborhood, and you kind of wanted to have a better idea of where this house sits in Gulfgate. And you also wanted to get a better feel of the neighborhood. So you can actually type in the address, right? So which is what I did right now. And now we're going to zoom in to where the listing is. So there it is. And it looks like it's in a relatively quaint neighborhood, at least from this angle here. We know it's not close to a major street, so it's pretty far away from 41. This is a great tool just to get an overall perspective of not just the neighborhood, but also a particular location of a listing that you might be interested in seeing. Once you have a selection of neighborhoods, go visit them by driving around. Get a feel for the area. Look who lives there. See if you could be comfortable there. Your approach to searching for a home is going to be much more targeted, and that's going to make your search way more efficient. You're ready to go full force ahead when it comes to looking at homes and maybe comparing them to each other. If the house is within your budget, the house feels right when you walked in, it has all the major features, it may make sense to start talking about putting an offer in place. Before you put an offer in place, make sure you really understand what the future expenses are going to be with this house. Just say you have an HOA. What is that HOA going to look like? You have to factor in property taxes. Typically, it's about 1% of the assessed value. Add in your utilities expense. On average, for a Florida home, it's about $500 a month. And that includes charges such as electric, gas, trash removal, water. Perhaps you're buying a house that's going to require outside maintenance. Maybe you need to hire somebody to mow the lawn, or perhaps you know the air conditioner is going to have to be changed out within the next 2 or 3 years, and you don't want to be caught by surprise. The agent is going to help you by putting a pricing analysis together, and this is where they're going to look at very good comps, the recent list price, the sold price, and they're going to advise you of what a good offer is going to look like in today's market. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and if you're looking for real estate in Sarasota County, I'd love to team up with you. You can contact me anytime, and if you're still watching until now, thank you so much. I always appreciate it when you do. Take care.